Good Monday morning, Sonder family. It is really great to see you this morning. We have a little bit of a smaller group right now. Maybe folks are going to be logging on, waking up, depending on what part of the country you are in. My name is Jennifer Ogilvy. I'll be your on-camera facilitator this morning. Or maybe you're just watching this recording via our YouTube channel. So, welcome to you. You have Team Jennifer on the Monday morning call this morning. My sidekick today, hanging out in the chat with you, is Jennifer Krippner. She's coming to us from Minnesota. Y'all know I like to say that when we're together, it's great because we're in the same time zone. And so I don't have to go backward and, math. The maths are hard. But yeah, you've got us on the call this morning. So Jennifer will be hanging out in that chat, answering questions along the way, or just commenting and supporting in any way. I love Mondays, a fresh start, the chance to set a new tone for the rest of the week, and a great day to be alive. So, today, this is a fake it till you make it kind of tone. I do love Mondays. I do love Mondays. So, we're so glad that you are here. Make sure that chat is set to everyone because you don't have to worry about being on camera or mic, but we will communicate in the chat if you so choose. So we want it to say everyone so that you can do it. Andrea's on vacation. Joanna, happy birthday. Anything else going on? Drop that in the chat. Let us, give you some cheers. Anyway. All righty. So there are a community guidelines, and we want to make sure that, we create safe spaces for all our Sonder family. And so I believe that we're going to need to remove someone who's hanging out in the chat because they are violating our community guidelines. So sorry, Mirage, we just don't do that. It's really good to see you guys ready to set up this new week. And just that reminder that, our time together is a way to be accountable to yourself and to your journey. Um, just a quick shout out to that personalized coaching. We want to make sure that, if you have any questions about that, email concierge at silkandsonder.com. And then also, we want to invite you to share your weekly planner. Yeah, we love Jenny, don't we, Andrea? It's so good. So yeah, if you're still on the fence or you're not so sure about Jenny, be sure that check it out. Email concierge at silkandsonder.com, and you'll get those questions answered. And then we want to see your planner in Sonder Club. I saw a lot of folks from the weekend posts. I'll have some brand new examples next week, but also I'm going to try to post what my setup looks like after I do the whole week thing at the end. So I would also encourage you to maybe, like, once you're done with the week, to share that. What did that look like? How did your tracking system go? Just that kind of transparency to one another. Anyway, okay, so the exclusive event that is coming this week, Thursday, you are going to want to pay attention to. Now, this is an exclusive that will have a $10 fee attached to it, but you will always have access to the recording. Pardon me. Jennifer dropped the chat, the link in the chat. But the Big Five model of personality is very scientifically validated, and it's widely used by psychologists. So we use lots of tools like the Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram and those kind of things. But this Big Five really describes people's kind of consistent patterns of thoughts and feelings and behaviors. And the neat thing about this is that it all exists for all of us. These big five, is it speaks to all of us, but in these different kind of spectrums, right? Like they're on this almost kind of sliding scale. And so you find out your strengths and your weaknesses. And it's not bad or good, it just is, which I love. And so lots of psychologists do consider this big five to be superior to the ideas behind the Myers-Briggs. They like to use this one to really hone in on you. And so we encourage you to check that out. And again, if it doesn't align with your um time, go ahead and purchase it, get that ticket, and then you'll get the recording at the end. But I'm very excited about that look. Okay, so I know I'm just chatting, chatting, chatting. So let's get going. We have our Independence Mind Map. Is there anybody here for the very first time at a weekly setup? Please drop a me in the chat. That'll help me know, what to say, if I need to really explain that mind map or not. And then after we do the mind map, we're going to do our rosebud thorn reflection and then dig into our weekly setup. So we are working on that independence mind map. I set mine up with just a big O X in it this month. But it can be, if you're catching up, you you can do it on any of these spaces you see here. Of course, we're in week 3, so we're kind of getting that deep dig at this point. So we've been exploring the different facets of our independence. And this week is week 3. And our question, our prompt, is to think about a situation where you held a different opinion or perspective than the majority of a group you were part of. How did you feel in that moment? Did you voice your thoughts or did you hold back? What are the benefits and challenges of expressing an independent viewpoint? And when might it be most important to do so? So there's the prompt there on the left. And if y'all were with me at the first setup of this month, when we were kind of thinking about what does society and outside forces expect from us and having our own voice. I used this quote from Steve Jobs and I brought it back because I think it really does drive this week's prompt home as well. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart intuition because they somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. And I thought that really paired nicely with this idea about thinking about those times that you had a different opinion. Now, I did put that little meme down there that says find balance because as I was thinking about this, yes, our voices are important. And I will tell you that I would never, if I had a very differing opinion, but I knew that my words would be hurtful, I think at that point I would bite my tongue. I just don't know that it would be worth the relationship if I knew that something would hurt someone. So there's just like this balance. I think we have to own that responsibility for what we share. But your voice does matter even when it goes against the grain. So reflecting on these moments help us be more intentional and more courageous and more connected to who we are. And that is, to me, independence. So just kind of write down whatever comes to mind. You don't have to write anything in any kind of order. Um, or you could maybe relive a moment and think about what it could have looked like if you had used your voice when you didn't use your voice. What would you say now? Um, what does it feel like to stand in your truth? And y'all, I'm going to tell you, I went very broad with this. I couldn't recall one specific thing. I have some thoughts that are very different from some people that I'm very close to, like politically, and so I tend to just like try to be a listener. Um, Anyway, so I actually ended up thinking about the crowds that I'm with for my response this week, and I wrote, I am more likely to dissent when I'm surrounded by my community, friends, family, church, other organizations. But in those situations, I'm more likely to use my voice and stand my ground appropriately. But if I don't know you well, I'm probably going to end up biting my tongue. And I don't know that that's always a good thing. And the reason I do that, I said keeping the peace has been hardwired since childhood, and I default to that if I feel unsure or if I feel like I won't be accepted after sharing a different perspective. Because my voice never really mattered back then. It does now. But I think I carry that into this idea of you know, kind of standing my ground. So I thought I would just share that. That gave me that reflection point. It wasn't a specific thing, but it was kind of like my mode of operation that I'm embracing about when I do have different opinions or perspectives. I need to feel safe to be able to do that. And writing that out really showed that to me kind of, oh, aha, that moment. So anyhow, yeah, don't wanna rock the boat. So that's maybe that's where we find balance, but it really helped me kinda see that part of my soul, like, that comes from a place of fear, how I operate and respond to that. So it was very, opening for me eye-opening for me to think of that in this way. So, again, this is your journal, no right or wrong, but just sharing kinda what came up for me. Let's put on some music while we start thinking about what this looks like in the light of independence. There's some really good stuff in the chat. Carolyn, I love that. I just didn't want to jump into an area and start a fight, right? What good would that do? So, I think that when we can be very self-aware, our voices, of course, our voices matter, but I also think that to find that balance, we got to read the room. And oftentimes I'm not going to change the mind of someone, or they're not going to change my mind. So is it worth the fight? Is it worth that cost, what it will cost me personally toward how good I feel about myself and that independence? So really, really great. So thank you for sharing. This wasn't necessarily an easy prompt. We're getting deeper like every week. So if you're not really sure where you land with this, let it kind of bounce around for the week, and add to your response, or kind of be proud of who you are in the way that you stand for your independence. And sometimes that could be by voicing your opinion, and sometimes that could be by standing quietly and just loving, right? So, yeah, these are not always easy. So thank you guys. Appreciate that. So I'm going to invite you to turn to page 44 now, which is our rosebud thorn reflection. We do this every week. And so, the thorns are, I'm going to start this week with mine, the things that didn't go well, or that just kind of colored situations, maybe a place you need more support. For us, I had shared with you that my sister-in-law was on hospice, and we did lose her Friday morning, and so we're just sad about that. And I'm really sad about, like, her daughter, who was her caregiver, and how much she gave to her mom. And I'm so proud of my niece. And but it is just it's a hard situation. She had been sick for a very long time, so there is relief within the grief. And then I'm just still carrying this collective grief for the state of Texas and our hill country, and the all the people who were so affected by our terrible, terrible floods. So, um, still kind of that. So there's like this little gloomy cloud hanging out with us, but I'm trying to find some buds in that. And one of the buds of this week that I'm really looking forward to, that thing that's gonna, give us a little hope and motivation, the bud is getting to see, lots of family that we haven't seen in a bit. We moved away from that area where we spent lots of family time, and so I am excited about hugging some of those great nieces and nephews, the grand nieces and nephews that I haven't seen, and those kind of things. Everybody's growing up, and then Jim and I, my husband and I, joined the rec center. We haven't really gone yet, but we joined our city rec center, and so I'm looking forward to some body movement. Hopefully, that will become part of a routine. And then my rose was up at WWO weekend. That's my little grandson's initials. He got his alone visit with us this weekend, and that was something that was really important to my husband and I, to just kind of lift our little gloomy feeling and being around that 7-year old. And we did a lot of Lego this weekend. So that was for me. Phil, thank you for those kind words, friends. I appreciate that in the chat. Yes, no, yes, absolutely, Leanne. Thank you. It does feel good to just kind of be with y'all and say that. So, share in the chat as we play a little bit of music, and let us celebrate the roses that you had, and cheer you on for those buds, those things that are coming forth in your life. And we will stand together with some big virtual hugs for those thorns. right, friends, thank you for sharing as you were comfortable in the chat. Um, Catherine shared, that they've moved, and I don't love this feeling, but I love the way you describe your feeling of being unanchored. Wow, that's pretty powerful. That's a really good way of describing. Yeah, I like what an anchored looks like to describe those tough feelings. I'm going to latch on to that word. That's a great way to describe and share. So thank you for that. We've got, of course, those health concerns that we really hope that you can get some resolutions too, because they hang on. And oh, Alice was in the yard having a yard sale, and it made her sick because of the heat. I was telling someone the other day, I'm already ready for the burr months, right? Our September, October, November. I start getting grumpy in July and August because just such a weenie with the heat. So yeah, y'all, thank you for sharing, but just know that even the things that are unspoken, you are in this community right now, and we are holding y'all together and just sending good vibes to each other. Just being with each other sometimes helps with those thorns, but also know that we celebrate all your roses. So I want you right now to turn over to page 48, which will be that weekly kind of day-to-day spread. And I thought this morning we could spend just a little bit of time looking at that one thing box. I know from time to time folks will say, what do you put there? And so I thought let's take a moment and share. What do you use this box? And if you do, what do you put in it? So drop that in the chat. I captured these from Sonder Club because someone had asked that question. It can be just that sort of one thing. Melissa says she uses it for the daily rituals. So she'll write that title for the daily ritual to kind of help recall what she listened to. Denise puts a Bible verse there. Mandy, as well as many other people, use it for the daily affirmation. Melissa said she uses it as kind of the one activity for the day that is sort of standing out. And she gave some examples of how she does that. And I mean, it's like on Friday the 4th, whatever month that was, Ed Sheeran's new album dropped. So just those kind of front of mind things. And I like to do that when I know like there's a really good show coming. You can watch this movie today, it drops. So I thought that was a great idea. We've got the mantra I'm going to play and sing that day. Lori uses it to list like social activities or the big appointments for the day. Grace says just something that stood out for the day, like a little mini reflection. Um, Also to write the daily affirmation. The national Madison says I put the fun national day. The Today is National Crayon Day, that particular day, and I've got a whole list of our special days this week. Kelly does it as a reflection, something that made me smile, a daily tarot card, another daily affirmation. Shanna is kind of using it to tag, kind of align with the biggest feeling of the day, like to, how she was feeling. Um, Carolyn does it like Melissa with that kind of one thing that's unique, the intention for the day. For Rebecca, kind of that one word, maybe how you want to feel. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of share that. I see in the chat that you are there's some prayers going on, the additional affirmation, like one for chronic pain or feeling. Oh, Kelly, that's good. So Kelly, change your chat to everyone. Sometimes it will default to host and panelists, but I'm going to call it out. Kelly says I use it for an additional affirmation, like one for chronic pain or feeling down. So really doing a reflection on how she's feeling and finding an affirmation to support that. Alyssa's using Jenny, her personal coach, and then she's taking one of the affirmations that Jenny has suggested and putting that in the one thing box. So maybe this inspires you for your one thing box this week. So good stuff, good stuff. So, if it's been blank, hopefully you're inspired to find something. So here's our fun days of the week. The national days of every day should have a little bit of celebration in it. So you might want to grab a screenshot if you see something that speaks to you there. And you could put that in your one thing box or work it into your calendar somehow. Oh, I love that. Bethany does it as like that little mini reflection, something she's happy with at the end of the week. So we'll flip back now to page 46. We'll be working on 46 and 47. I'm sure many of you already know how you're going to set it up, but I've got a couple of examples. I always say this is like show and tell. I love to look at other people's journals and see what they do. I did something a little different this week. I'll tell you about mine. So you can see, these great examples. Um, you can do just a couple of words with how you want to feel or kind of write it out. We've got the three goals. The one on the left, there's the topics for the three goals and then the to-dos. Um, feed right into those goals. You can look at the different trackers, how they're going to track. Notice the one on the left, there's Disneyland on Monday, Tuesday. So just kind of made that little note to be intentional with that. They're not tracking goals. The one, look at the one on the right. I love this one because there's one habit and activity, and it is check your monthly habits. Go look at that habit wheel, and then just some great stickers to get that. Because sometimes, we don't need to overwhelm ourselves with all the things. Couple more examples here of what folks are doing on these pages. You can see a morning and evening routine for the three major goal space. And I love, we're not even doing how do I want to feel. I'm just going to remind myself every little thing is going to be all right. The goals for this person are written over there in the to-do box. So they've done a to-do list and then they put their three goals and it's categorized some me things, create and be present. And then the one over there on the right, another way of looking at how to tie in all the things together and look at the instead of goals, it's weekly major three affirmations. So if you are doing personal coaching with Jenny, maybe you could set that space up with those three affirmations and then carry it over into your do so that you know how you're going to make that happen. And then again, at that bottom, not going to track. They're using their monthly habit tracker wheel and they're leaving this space blank. So, just a couple of fun examples of this kind of page one of our setup. So, we'll start with how do you want to feel this week? You could draw in little emojis, little emoticons, if that works for you. This week, I wrote on mine, I want to feel comfort and compassion. So almost like self-comfort, but then compassion for others. And yeah, just sitting with kind of this little gray cloud over me. But I found, life is funny. And so in my socials, as I was scrolling through, this little meme came up and it said, I tried to run away, but it keeps chasing me. So I sit down to feel it all. And then eventually it passes and I am still here. And so that was that reminder to me. So I wanted to share it with y'all just to kind of lean into those feelings. It doesn't always have to be happy, happy, joy, joy. We embrace everything that life brings us. So there's some great words for y'all to choose from. I'm seeing in the chat that Andrea is saying she wants to feel relaxed and grateful. Joanna celebrated, of course, girl. Um, sweet and secure. Oh, I love that. That alliteration. Relaxed and calm. You need a vacation. Carolyn says, Carolyn, I think it defaulted back to host and panelist, but she says, I need a vacation. I want to feel one. So maybe you can put in some little mini vacation moments in your week. Maybe carve out, even 10 minutes a day for just something for you. Energetic, aligned. So, all right, we're going to claim our week. We're going to look at all the things on this page. You've seen this graphic before, just that reminder. Maybe a good time. We're sort of winding down July. We've got 10 days left. How are your intentions going? Go take a look at those intentions on page 9. Do they reflect what's happening in your weeks? If not, that's okay, but just bring that to mind and maybe think about what's been standing in the way of those intentions and then acknowledging that. the no goals, previous week's journals, as we're going through the month of July, or there's some undones from the last 2, 3 weeks that need to show up this week. So let's just some great examples. And I want to call out, I know that I've used this example before, the one on the bottom right, and their three goals are, balance budgets, bylaws. But one it and they had the alignment with the to-dos, right? So when we are looking at our to-do list that we create, it's very important to make sense of it, to make it work for us. And one way to do that is called batching, where you can look at this long list, but then you start kind of grouping them into into groups that will work for you to help you accomplish those things on your to-do list. So that official word is called batching. And so I encourage you, if you have this really, y'all know I keep a big general to-do list, and I pull things because some of the things are just hanging out there, things that are outstanding. um they're not necessarily time specific. They're just things that I want to happen. And so I'll pull from that. So I need to pull those things and then batch them together in ways that make sense. And then it helps you uh, deal with, get those things done. Also, like the one on the upper left, the daily check in with the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you can check or exit off as you get those things done. Some more accountability there. Love the one on the bottom, the one thing you must do this week, the two things you want to do this week, and then the three things I am most proud of, and you leave that blank and you do that reflection. Here is the way to do an effective to-do list. Choose that priority, one important high priority task. So if you're looking at that list, what's the most important thing? This is a little bit like the Eisenhower matrix. Then do 4 mid-level tasks and then 5 low priority simple tasks, the things you can just knock out and feel success with. So 1, 4, 5. Write down your task using verbs to make them actionable, right? So, how can you do that? Not just this list of things, but like pair it with some actionable items and then break down those larger tasks into subtasks. So you might want to grab a screenshot of that if it speaks to you. I will be going back through all of these as you're working on these sections. Here's some ways that folks did their to-do list. A shout out to the one that's kind of in the upper middle. I like the if then statements. If you do laundry, then you will feel less overwhelmed. If you meal plan, then you will feel proud and healthy. So tying it into how you're going to feel once you get that to do done. Um, Again, just some inspiration from y'all. May all your to-dos turn into to-dos. Perhaps you do need to embrace that to-do list. I'm very excited about next month's theme of enchantment. I can see a lot of to-do happening through that month. And then we'll drop down to the bottom and look at some habit and activity examples. And I love our little bunny. It's me learning to embrace practices that nourish rather than habits that deplete. So, really lean into being intentional with what you are going to be giving your time to. Don't do it just because. It's there. I shared these. I've been sharing these lately for challenge ideas. I like a challenge. I like gamifying, and I tend to be more successful if I can make it a little fun. So a challenge is fun. This week I am doing the digital declutter challenge. I did that the first week of the month. I'm going to do that again, and I put it in my meal plan section, but you might want to add that in somewhere, or maybe put it down in your habit and activity. And each day, you do digital photos, emails, look at what you have going on. My photos needs to be a day when I don't really have much else going on because I have a bunch to go through. But then there's also some ideas over on the left of ways to challenge yourself. A couple of new graphics for you, a countdown to daily healthy habits. So again, using the idea of gamifying your life. So 9,000 steps, 8 hours of sleep, 7 glasses of water, et cetera, et cetera. This is a great graphic. And maybe it shows up like in your meal plan, or maybe you put it in your habit and activity tracker. Also, the graphic over there on the right is just ways to love yourself. If you're feeling a little down, if you're feeling like you need a vacation, perhaps some of these things will speak to your soul and give you a little mini vacation in your day. And again, I'll go through all these slides while you're working on this page. Um, Here's some great ways of tracking those things. Notice that the one on the very bottom is almost like this check in. So you see, like the first habit and activity is morning meds and vitamins. That's called habit stacking when you do two things together. But they've also done a little division line between that check off so that they can check both things off. And then brush teeth, the same thing. And I'm sure that's for AM and PM. The one right above it, no tracking on the weekends, giving themselves a little bit of time off, which is a-okay. You can circle the days on this tracker that you need those things to happen. But remember, no one can be 100% every day, and that is okay. There's some inspiration from our Silke and Sonder Instagram page with some more ideas for this habit and activity section, and just a few more feel good habits and activities. So I'm going to put on some music. I'm going to go back through all of these slides so you can have another look. And then, yes, Radhika, I will show you that little sweet bunny again. That's a really good way of, it's a sweet little quote, just that good reminder. So let us know if you repurpose, if you're going to be doing it. My weekly goals this week are really not goals. I have a habit and activity to have in my habit and activity tracker. I put plants at every meal. I'm not eating enough stuff that grows from the ground right now. I've been kind of eating my feelings. And so I made a little chart in my weekly 3 major goals, and it says breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's let's see if I can, I've got my background blurred. So, I got to hold it probably close to me. I don't know if you can see that. So that's where I'm going to track my plants, what I'm eating for every single meal, and just try to make sure I'm not going for the chips and salsa. Although salsa is technically a plant. Anyway, but that's what I'm going to do. So I don't have 3 major goals. I'm going to support my one habit and activity there of having plants at every meal. All right. I know y'all feel me with that, eating my feelings. Yeah. So, let's do this. Okay, so hopefully we've got this first page set up. Julie, I am posting that quote that you asked for right there in the chat. I had to go, had to go back and which one was that? So hopefully you can grab that. You are absolutely welcome. So let's look at this next page. Again, show and tell from you guys. So you can see both of these are kind of set up differently. The simplicity over there on the right, like maybe that's what you need. And we've got the affirmations going in the meal plan section. What are our main dinners, that main meal of the day, and then what am I reading? Um, I love changing the meal plan into just what's up, like what are the biggies today? So there's that. Tracking the weather in the mind body health space, great idea. So again, I always love looking at y'all's examples. Here's some examples of using that meal plan either for planning, for tracking what's going into your body, for looking at, like the macros. If you're doing that, some dinner ideas you can see have been shifted. The one over there on the bottom right, they're using their meal plan for something else. So their dinner ideas are going into that shopping list. So it's still there, but they're utilizing the spaces differently. So all the examples I'm going to show you, I always say they can be put in any of these spaces. I loved this quote because I have gone in and looked in a very full kitchen and refrigerator and said, there's nothing to eat. And it's, I hate when I go in the kitchen for food and all I find are ingredients. So, this meal planning, there's something to it and setting yourself up to feed your body with great nutrition. Really what I'm sharing is, the message to myself to be well planned so that I'm making good choices this week. Of course, there's a million ways to repurpose these things. Maybe some of these things will speak to you and what you are needing. A daily haiku, just plugging into that different part of your brain when you are trying to write a little bit of poetry is so good for you. I love this old example about stopping and the things, when life starts to feel crummy, stop. And this person finds just refreshment in taking a shower, thinking positively, maybe sitting with your journal for a little while. Open up to the people in your life and then prioritize meditations. Give yourself that little moment of stepping aside from life and using that. Here's some great examples for repurposing that meal plan for clothing. There's a couple of reflection ideas over there, those little mini reflections, maybe doing a midday check-in. If you are using your mood tracker, this could be a really great way to check in with that mood, but maybe write a little bit about why you chose that mood for the day. Kind of journal with that and pair those two items together, that monthly mood tracker and then maybe, that midday check-in with how you're feeling. Here's some mind body health stuff. Self-care starts today. And here are some great suggestions for doing that. I told Jen I've been learning a little bit more about blue zones, which are those zones that have longevity, and they're taking and gleaning information from all these different areas in the world. And one of the ideas behind blue zones that I'm actually incorporating in my journal this week on my mind body health plan is downshift ideas. And it's things like naps in gardens, being in your garden and getting sunshine and writing a letter and being barefoot in the grass and giving yourself 10 minutes. And so I've made this list on my journal, and then I'll be drawing the lines to the things that I did to downshift. So these are some great ideas here about downshifting. And you kind of downshift to upshift, right? It helps you be refreshed and revitalized. That's a perfect spot for that kind of thing in this mind body health. Like, what are we doing for ourselves? I always say it's my selfish space. But I wanted to point out the one on the right. Look how they've taken the mind body health plan and the shopping list and they put it kind of all together. to do these little daily journal prompts. So that was kind of a nice idea for that. Here is kind of that idea of making yourself a big list of all the things that you could do to take care of yourself. And now you have a menu to select from that you could plug into this mind body health space. So there's that beautiful example there on the left of all the things that for you brings you that feeling of self-care and love. And then, of course, the one over there on the right is just, making each day, having a little something each day. Some me time ideas. Those me time ideas are so important. Those little moments for yourself, especially if you're looking for those little 10-minute vacation. Like, what if we say, I'm going on vacation, and you take 10 minutes to go read a book, or you take 2 hours to watch a movie, and you frame it in the mindset of, I'm taking a vacation. So there's that. Oh, Regina, no, someone you're talking about those great pages. Yes, like this page here where it's in the ring. They actually remove the spiral binding, they washi tape the edges and repunch holes. So they are taking their journal to the next step. But that's an idea for you if you have that way to do that, and you want to like have it all in a planner. So that's what they do is they just take their journal apart and washi tape over these punched holes, and then yeah, not doing it. It's, to each his own. Sometimes that is the therapy that someone needs to do that. So I'll go back through these slides, Patricia, while we're all working on these sections. That shopping list, again, I love the shopping list. It's always a bingo in my world. This week it is my home and garden love because I've got some love that I need to give to my home in the form of mopping and fresh sheets. But I'm calling it love because it just feels better to do it that way. But there's a bunch of ways to be inspired for repurposing it if you're not going to use this as a shopping list. I love this little book over there on the left, where they're writing the two books that they're working on. It could be a little space for doodling or a people check in or just putting some fun stickers or doodles. Lots of ways. And then finally, share in the chat as we're wrapping up. What are you loving right now? This very day. Find that little bitty something and share in the chat. I'll go back through all of these slides. Grab a screenshot if you see something that speaks to you. But remember, this is also being recorded. And then we will come back and say goodbye to each other. This is the fastest hour of our whole week, and I want to thank you for joining us today. There is my playlist on independence. I'm on Spotify. So if you are also on Spotify and you want to go follow me in my randomness with songs. I just put the link to the Independence playlist there. And yeah, I think make sure that if you are on Jenny, you know that we've got the text to speech journaling prompts that is happening. My friends, thank you for, saving this time for us, for one another to be here. Just really to let me go back to the declutter challenge. Where was that? I can do that while we're talking. Glad to do that. This has been recorded, and someone was asking if there's a little bit of a quicker way of catching these. There's a declutter. If there's ways of catching this a little earlier, and there's not, but they are posting these pretty quickly. I think the weekend ones are already posted, so just be patient. But you will always have a recording to our setups, and there's 1,000 of these recordings on YouTube, so you can go grab that. Friends, thank you again. It's just always nice to start the day with you. We'll be back next Monday with another setup. We're going to finish up that mind map. And whether you are joining us live, which we prefer, or you're catching us on YouTube, we just enjoyed starting the week.